Hello students, welcome to my channel Science No Problem. My name is Tish Kumar Sharma and I am teaching you science. So students, today we are taking the chapter chemical equations and reactions. So let me tell you that this is actually the first chapter of chemistry, uh, and this is a very basic chapter actually of chemistry, and a lot of chemistry actually you will come to learn through this chapter. And this is a base building, foundation building chapter, I can say. So please be attentive, and please watch the video actively, and you can also make notes. You should also note down the important points which I will discuss in the video. My dear students, without wasting much time, let's start our video. So, what is chemical reaction? What is chemical reaction? Actually, if we see around us, so many reactions take place. For example, in our day-to-day life also. For example, when we burn anything, so that is also burning, is also a chemical reaction. Similarly, we can say that the food which we eat, so it gives us energy. So digestion of food is also a chemical reaction. So many chemical reaction in fact take place in our body. Respiration is also a chemical reaction. Similarly, photosynthesis is a process you know very well, through which plants make their food. So that is also a chemical reaction. There are so many ripening of fruits, that is also a chemical reaction. And a lot of chemical reactions which we actually study in or we do in actually science lab also. These are actually chemical reactions. So in a chemical reaction, what happens, that new substances are formed. The definition of chemical reaction is that it is a process in which new substances are formed. New substances are formed. Students, please take pen and notebook with you, and note down the important points which I discuss here. You can note down with me. So chemical reaction is a process in which new substances are formed. And uh, uh, all chemical equations, or a chemical equation can be represented in the form of chemical equation also. For example, if we are burning a fuel, so fuel generally contains carbon. So when we burn a fuel, this is also a chemical actually reaction. So in fuel, what happens, that carbon reacts with oxygen to give carbon dioxide. So this is an example of chemical reaction. So this chemical reaction we have written in the form of chemical equation. And in a chemical equation, the reacting substances, or the substances which take part in chemical reaction, are called reactants. And the substances which are formed, new substances which are formed in a chemical reaction, are called products. So here carbon and oxygen are reactants, and product is, this is product. So reactants and products. Reactants are written on the left side of a chemical equation, and the products are written on the right side of a chemical equation, and each every chemical reaction can be represented in terms of chemical equation. Now actually what happens during similarly we can also take another example. For example, we have magnesium plus oxygen, that gives us magnesium oxide. Similarly we have what, H, hydrogen plus oxygen, we have gives us water, H2O. So there are actually so many chemical reactions. Now what happens in a chemical reaction, how chemical reaction takes place, or what happens during a chemical reaction. In a when chemical reaction takes place, so what happens that the old bonds between the actually atoms of reactants that start breaking, and new bonds start forming. So this happens in a chemical reaction. So old bonds break and new bonds are formed in a chemical reaction. So this is how the chemical reaction takes place. And there are another important thing here to be noted is that we have written these chemical reactions, chemical equations, sorry. So we see that in this, we consider this chemical equation. I'm rewriting this, magnesium plus hydrogen plus oxygen. Let me write hydrogen plus oxygen is equal to water. This arrow stands for equal to stands for arrow. Now what happens that you see that in reactant side we have actually hydrogen element and oxygen element, or we will say we have atoms of hydrogen and atoms of oxygen. And on the right hand side also you can see the hydrogen and oxygen elements. So what does it mean? It means that during a chemical reaction actually elements do not change, elements remain the same in both the sides, that is hydrogen and oxygen in the left side, and also same elements hydrogen and oxygen on the right side. So elements do not change. Here you can't say that hydrogen and oxygen are combining and you are getting nitrogen oxide like this. So this is not the case. So this should be very clear that elements do not change. And the second point important to be noted is that the properties of the products are completely different from the properties of reactants. For example, in this case, in this chemical equation, actually hydrogen is gas, and you know the properties of hydrogen also, and you know the properties of water also. Water is liquid, and oxygen, properties of oxygen you also know. So properties of hydrogen and water, or properties of oxygen and water, they are totally different, because water formed is new substance, this completely new substance. These substances actually reactants, what happens in a chemical reaction, the reactants actually they disappear and we get the new substance formed in place of reactants. So properties, if we compare the properties of reactants and products, then they are totally different. So these things happen during a chemical reaction. So once again, two things very important to note is during a chemical reaction, that elements do not change, or atoms of one element do not change into atoms of another element. And second thing is that the properties of reactants products are entirely different from the properties of products. So this was also very important to note. Now let's consider this reaction, burning of magnesium ribbon. Magnesium, when we burn magnesium ribbon, burning of magnesium ribbon, we can write the heading also, burning of magnesium ribbon. So chemically, how we can, this is reaction between burning of magnesium ribbon is actually reaction between magnesium and oxygen. So we can write this reaction in terms of chemical equation, that is magnesium plus oxygen is equal to magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide. And here also you can, okay. So magnesium oxide is formed. Now what happens that there are actually two things to be noted here, and question which the things which important things regarding this equation reaction I'm telling you. So question which actually is generally asked in paper, which is related to this chemical reaction, is that we rub or we clean magnesium ribbon before burning. Why? This question is asked, and this question is also given in your textbook of NCERT, that why we clean or why we rub magnesium ribbon with the sandpaper before burning magnesium ribbon. Now the answer is that magnesium is actually very highly reactive element, and it reacts with oxygen. So what happens when magnesium reacts with the oxygen? Layer of magnesium oxide is deposited on the metal, magnesium metal, and that layer has to be removed. We clean magnesium ribbon before burning because to remove magnesium oxide layer which is deposited on it. So actually all metals this is also called oxidation of metals, and all metals actually oxidize. Now actually this is not our topic, oxidation of metals, but anyway, once again, why magnesium is cleaned or rubbed with the sandpaper before burning? The answer is to remove magnesium oxide layer which is deposited on metal magnesium. Because magnesium is highly reactive, so it reacts with oxygen. So not only magnesium, but actually all metals actually react with oxygen, and they form layer over their surfaces, oxide layer. And let me tell you in advance that I'm again saying this is not our topic, but in later chapter we will, this is also important, in this chapter also we will discuss this. This is important concept actually, that oxidation of metals, for some metal this is good and for some metal this is bad. For example, oxidation of iron metal is damaging because iron gets totally damaged due to the formation of iron oxide layer. And in some metals oxidation is good. For example, in case of magnesium also, oxidation of magnesium is also good, and oxidation of aluminium is also good. because the oxide layer of aluminium which is gets deposited on the surface of aluminium metal, so that is very hard layer actually. And that hard layer does not actually allow the oxygen which is in our atmosphere to penetrate that metal further. So the metal inside that actually oxide layer, so that remains protected from oxygen, so that does not oxidize. So this is good for in case of aluminium and magnesium. But in case of actually iron, this oxidation of iron is not good. That is also called rust. So what happens that iron oxide layer is not it is very soft layer, and it is also there are holes also on this layer, and through which actually oxygen penetrates iron metal, and that further damages the metal underneath this layer. So iron gets totally damaged. So this happens. So anyway, so second point to be kept in mind before burning magnesium ribbon is that that is related to safety, the safety of our eyes. That when we burn actually magnesium ribbon, what happens that white bright light is produced when we burn magnesium ribbon. So that light actually is very harmful to our eyes, or very damaging to our eyes. So while burning magnesium ribbon, we must ensure that we have worn protective glasses, or if we don't have protective glasses, then we can keep the actually hold the this magnesium ribbon as away from our hands as possible, so that the glare produced of this flame, white flame, does not actually harm our eyes. So I think that what we have discussed today, I have discussed today with you, is understood to you. So the students, now I would give you two questions to answer. So first question is that why magnesium ribbon is cleaned before burning? And second question is that what safety measures we can take to protect our eyes while burning magnesium ribbon? So my dear students, I have given you two questions, and there are actually two purposes of giving you these questions. Number one purpose is that if you are able to test how much you understood the topic or not, to test that these questions I have given to you. And the second purpose is to reinforce your understanding, your learning, what you have learned. So to reinforce that, so that is why I have given you these questions. So if you actually understood our video, if you like our video, then please share and subscribe our channel, share our videos. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. See you in next video.